George Webster, Gene Washington, Clinton Jones, all in the College Football Hall of Fame. And then Jimmy Ray, the South's first black quarterback to win a national title, who then went on and broke down doors as a college and NFL coach, although he never got his chance to be a head coach, which is part of the problem within both the NFL and college, that few black coaches get a fair chance.
All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to go in backwards order, okay? We're going to talk about Michigan Wolverines against Appalachian State. That game has gone final. The Wolverines 79, Appalachian State 71. Appalachian out of the Sun Belt Conference. Certainly no upset as we saw in Ann Arbor on September 1st, 2007, huh, Tommy? What?
Yeah, I knew they were playing, and I didn't know how the game was coming out. So was it as tight as a score, or did it get close at the end?
79-71. I'm not watching it. I got guys like you doing it all, man. I missed the World Series doing these broadcasts, Shetty. Really?
Yeah. Well, that's not a good indication of Michigan having a good season then under their new coach, Juwan Howard.
Right.
Juwan is probably the most credible of the Fab Five. Jalen Rose and Chris Webber were showboaters, and Chris Webber, of course, took all that money from a Michigan booster. Right. But Juwan Howard's always been a classy guy.
No doubt about it. All right, since I was such a jerk and I took you away from that other game, I apologize for nothing, but it's too bad you got good stuff that I have to share to everybody out here. So,
yeah.
Should I be in an apologetic mood to you tonight?
No, let's talk basketball. We've got 4.2 seconds to go, and Trey Jones is at the free throw line.
All right,
he just gave Duke a 5-point lead. 4.2 seconds. So Kansas has had a lot of trouble with turnovers tonight. Let's see, what are they up to? They're closing in on 30. They got 27 turnovers.
All right, there you go. All right, so let's talk about tonight's games of the Champions Classic, and then we'll talk about a couple things that I want to save until the end, okay? But you can go with the tonight's games. You have the Michigan State-Kentucky game should be starting very shortly. Go ahead. What's your take on both the two games?
Well, about 20 minutes of Michigan State and Kentucky will play. The Duke and Kansas just finished. Duke's number 4 ranked team. Kansas number 3. Duke hangs on to win 68-66. Pretty sloppy game, both teams. Kansas, like I said, just had 27 turnovers, but Duke also had 16 turnovers. But I think Duke has a high ceiling. I think with time, they've got so many guys that play the game the right way. They're team ball players. I think they're going to find a rhythm later in the season and maybe be peaking by NCAA tournament time, because they definitely have a lot of talent. They just don't have the lottery pick talent that they've had in the past. Right. They might have a lower first round pick in Vernon Carey. Let's see, how did Vernon do tonight? I saw at times where he wasn't strong going to the basket. Let's see what he finished up with here. Yeah, he's got 11 points, and he's got to get. And he only had 6 rebounds. That's not bad. He's got to get a lot more aggressive though. But it gives you more respect for Zion Williamson. What a tough guy he was. That he was a man among boys. Vernon Carey was one of the top recruits, but he's still got a lot of growing to do.
That's the truth. All right, one of the main things that we talked about, Tommy, is the college season. Once upon a time used to start late November, early December. Now November the 5th.
Yeah, I don't know why they have to start so early. I guess it's been about 3 or 4 years now that they've started this early. Last year, the Champions Classic was played on November 6th, so it's even a day earlier this year, depending on how the calendar falls. But I remember just a few years ago, I think it was about 2011. Yeah, exactly. It was 2011, because November 11th, 2011, 11/11/11, Veterans Day, Michigan State and North Carolina opened the season when they played on the aircraft carrier in San Diego. So in just a few years, we've moved the season up another week. And then, another 10, 20 years before that, it seemed like the season was starting too early when they crept into Thanksgiving. So the seasons just go it's a year-round sport, and I wish it wasn't so long. I don't think the coaches like it also either, but that's what we're stuck with TV calling the shots.
Yeah, you said it there, Tommy. TV is calling the shots. I don't think. I mean, what point or another? I mean, first of all, they're playing games. Unless you have the Michigan States and the Dukes playing high caliber competition, who's paying attention to these games this early on? I mean, Tom, we're in week 10 now?
The NFL.
Yeah,
the NFL. And now we're talking college basketball?
Exactly. We still got a lot of college and NFL football to play, right?
This is supposed to be a night, just so you know, okay, that you were supposed to talk college football, but because I decided to bring Bucky Waters on the show, that I couldn't. I've got you leading into Bucky Waters, and we know what a legend he is, right?
Oh yeah, and hey, nothing wrong with that because the basketball season has started. Right. Yeah, Bucky's a legend.
Yeah, he is. I mean, but like anything else, we try to address all the sports that we can, and it's all about timing. And my goal is to make sure that I have every single expert that covers everything I can to make sure that we don't leave any sport or league, to me, not covered.
Well, what did Bucky have to say about these 4 teams tonight? Duke, Kansas.
You're before them.
I thought you already had them on. Okay.
Oh no, we're doing it later. Hey, listen, you know what? The way I had this thing set up is since you had such good information about starting the season early. And you definitely set me off pretty well with that because it's always been a mind-boggling question. So if you want to go ahead and hear what Bucky's got to say, you got to do what everybody else does, and that's go out there and listen to the episode, download it, share it, whatever you got to do, Tommy, because every time I ask you to share these episodes, then you realize that your book, go ahead and get more plugs that way.
Yeah, sounds good.
Is that an incentive or what?
You'd really be apologizing to Bucky if he had to go on the air during the Duke game.
Well, actually, I moved it back because of that.
That's right.
Well, I did. I mean, I thought about it. Initially, what we were going to do with Bucky and I, it was going to be 8:20 to around 9. But I thought better of it as we talked about it. I said, well, Bucky, as long as it's not past your bedtime, we're all right. No, I can do a little bit later to watch this game. So.
Yeah, well, I'll be curious to hear what he has to say.
Oh, yeah, well, hey, you know what? While you have a couple of extra minutes, why don't you give Lewis a little education on Bucky Waters?
I actually just looked him up. He looked like he was a longtime coach, and I guess he coached at Duke, and he played some college ball, too.
Yeah, look at this kid. What do you think of this here, Tommy?
Yeah, you got to learn about the legends, too.
And then he broadcast with ESPN, so, hey.
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah, he's 83 years old, and he's still doing it. Love it. He's like, his basketball's Vince Scully, right?
Yeah.
I'll let Tom answer that question. Is he?
Nobody's Vince Scully.
Right.
In his respective avenue, and I should have prefaced with.
Yeah, he's kept at it for a long time, and he was at Duke. He was at, Duke's always was a good program, and he was there at Duke. But of course, Duke's never been what it is now under Coach K.
Yeah, I mean, but no, I think it's. I like giving college basketball their prompts. Obviously, they have one of the best money makers on the planet with the NCAA tournament. And now, Tom, before you came out of the line, that Lewis has never actually gone into an NCAA bracket before.
No, yeah, I haven't, Tom. Who should I be watching out for other than the obvious picks like Duke and Kentucky?
You could have your dog make the picks and do as well as anybody else.
I told Scott I'm going to go down like a Zeppelin when I do this prior to March starting because I haven't watched enough college basketball to do it, but doing these shows, obviously I'm going to immerse myself more in it. But yeah, I'll go out on a rudimentary knowledge standpoint and just think Coach K is going to be somebody who I expect to be there near the end. But again, sports is unpredictable, so we never know. Yeah, well, they have that $1 million bracket challenge that Warren Buffett backs, and nobody's ever won it because it's impossible. You can never predict all the upsets in the NCAA tournament. It's just too unpredictable.
Do you think anybody would actually make a bracket like that anybody could actually win? Be like going to Las Vegas?
No, it's never happened. It's never happened.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point. So while we have a
It'd be interesting to know the number of losses the winner has.
Well, I can go back to a time when Marquette won the national championship. I think it was against North Carolina, and they had 7 losses, the most of any winner at the time, and they only had 48 teams in the tournament. Remember that?
Yeah. But what I meant was on a bracket sheet. I wouldn't be surprised to have a half dozen to a dozen losses on a bracket sheet and be the best one.
And Al McGuire was the coach of that team, so that just goes to show you that was a 48-team bracket. Al McGuire won it with 7 losses.
Yeah.
While we're talking about that Champions Classic, we got like 3 or 4 minutes to go. Why don't you give me your input on the Michigan State game tonight against Kentucky?
Well, I'd expect Michigan State, Kentucky's kind of a young team too, so they might turn the ball over a lot like Duke and Kansas did. But I would expect Michigan State to be a little bit more ahead of everybody because they've got a senior point guard back in Cassius Winston, and I would think they'll be a little bit smoother team in this first game. Kentucky has a lot of young guys. Like Duke, they don't necessarily have the cast of lottery picks they've had in the past, but certainly they have a lot of the top players in the country.
I've said this before, and I'll say it to you, and then we'll need you to give us an idea what we're going to be working on Thursday. I've always credited Tom Izzo as a guy that's not afraid to go out there and schedule the better opponents, where lots of coaches are just looking to pile up wins early in the season. But to Izzo's challenge, he takes on those tougher opponents early. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, let me call up their schedule real quick because obviously they have the Champions Classic every year, but they've also going to Maui, so they're playing Kentucky, the number 2 team. They're going to go to Maui, and they could play Kansas, the number 3 team, if they both make it to the finals. And then Izzo also has the Spartans entered in playing a game at Seton Hall. Seton Hall is going to be a tough team this year. And then they draw Duke in the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
Right.
That'll be December 3rd at the Breslin Center in East Lansing. And, Cameron Indoor Stadium, of course, is a shrine in college basketball, and that's where everybody wants to go play. And at the ACC Media Days, I was asking the Duke players about going to Michigan State and the Breslin Center. And I was surprised how the reverence they talked about Breslin Center and, a place they've seen only on TV and how much they were looking forward to it. So, maybe the Breslin Center has its own place in college basketball.
Well, you and I can both attest to the fact that I saw a game over at Jenison Fieldhouse, and I saw one at the Breslin Center when it first opened up. But not Michigan State. At that time, it was the Pistons and the 76ers when they played a game up there. So Jenison Fieldhouse was a neat place, albeit it was like 10,000 people until they built a much better facility. All right, we got about a minute and a half to go, Tommy. What are you going to be working on for us on Thursday?
ACC football. Notre Dame is coming down here to play Duke. Clemson is playing North Carolina State. And so the division races should be coming into focus here pretty soon. The Coastal is wide open. People say the Coastal is a bad division, but I think it's just a real evenly balanced division, and it looks bad because of the records. But you got to remember, North Carolina, and they're only 4-5. They took Clemson down to the last play. If they convert that 2-point conversion, they win the game. Right. And then just last week, Virginia Tech, who's won I think about 3 in a row, they had Notre Dame beat until Notre Dame made a drive to win the game with a touchdown with 29 seconds to play. So there's some quality teams that just don't have the records, and they don't have a Clemson at the top of the Coastal Division. Clemson's over in the Atlantic Division.
Okay. Well, you know what, Tommy? We'll look forward to your report. And for all those individuals that want to follow Tom Shanahan's report, they go to shanahanreport.com. Is that right, Tommy?
That's right. And Twitter is Shanny4055 Shanny4055.
Okay, very good. So if you're looking for some good reading, Tom Shanahan will make sure there's plenty of it. So once again, Tom, we want to thank you very much for being on the program. We look forward to your Gridiron report on Thursday.
Thanks, and plenty of Service Academy football on there too. I love writing about Army and Navy and Air Force.
Well, the only thing guaranteed on Thursday is you're going to get a little bit more time. I'll make sure of that.
Okay.
So meanwhile, Tom, we're always grateful for you being on the show. We look forward to having you back on Thursday night, though. Thanks for some good ACC